Of sports. Some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Pelican Brewing presents the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague visit with the insiders that are covering the stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague is poured by Pelican Brewing. Be ready for your next afternoon vacation with Beak Breaker Tropical. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.
Hey, the Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing. Visit pelicanbrewing.com for more details on locations, events, award-winning beers, independently brewed since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. We've been joking a lot the last couple of days about my superpower, the Blue Blood Oregon Duck baseball program, because they're heading back to a super regional for the second straight year. I don't think Oregon State's ever done that. So we got something, a little feather in our cap. We're riding high. We're feeling good. Going down to Texas A&M. Joining us now to talk about Oregon's baseball team and the run that they're on.
Openly lying in an intro is wild.
People forget. Rob Moesley at GoDucksMoesley on Twitter. Go give him a follow, the editor of GoDucks.com. Rob, good morning to you, man. Thanks for the time. It's funny, as an Oregon alum, there's so much attention that goes to football for obvious reasons. The basketball program always gets a ton of attention. I feel like this has been a moment where quietly, Oregon baseball has said, hey, we figured it out and we're really good. Back-to-back super regionals. What did you make of the way that they played down in Santa Barbara this weekend?
Yeah, well, it was a nice kind of in the short term. It was a nice bounce-back effort for the Pac-12 tournament, that's for sure. Going 0 for 2 down there was not what those guys wanted to see by any means. They went down to Arizona hoping they could have a great showing there and potentially be in the mix to host a regional. Instead, go to UCSB, a really, really tough region, as a 3 seed, and so they kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball a little bit. But, I think Mark Wazakowski, the head coach here the last few years, has just done a great job stoking the competitive fires and, getting guys ready. And when you do have a setback, bouncing back and just really, a really impressive, competitive, entertaining 3-game run in Santa Barbara the last few days.
Well, I was really impressed. Not allowing a runner in scoring position until 2 outs in the 9th is one thing. Their pitching staff was unbelievable in that regional, regarded as a pretty good staff. Were you surprised by how incredible they were in that regional?
No, I don't know if I was surprised, but obviously it was quite welcome. The pitching had not been the problem, again, in that Pac-12 tournament appearance. Yeah. Just the bats just couldn't get going. And they ran into a couple of really good pitchers, including the Pac-12 Pitcher of the Year for Utah down there. So there were some circumstances there. And, things can happen in baseball and with a small sample size. But, the starting pitching, I think it's hard not to compare where they're at to last year when the pitching staff was just beset by injuries. And there were a bunch of true freshmen being pressed into action, way too early for them. They were put into some really tough spots and perform on some big stages, and some guys came through to fuel, to almost help Oregon get to Omaha last year. But this year, it's been a different case. Some of the veteran arms that have been in the rotation have stayed there all season. So guys like R.J. Gordon and Grayson Grinsell, who are veterans from the last couple of years, kind of performed as you would have hoped. And then Kevin Sider, in the clincher the other day, was just lights out. Obviously, as you mentioned, not allowing a guy in runner in scoring position until 2 outs in the 9th. So, the last 2 starts were elite, and R.J. Gordon in the first game was good as well. A couple of inherited runners scored off him. But getting the bats going to support those guys, was the biggest key too. And some clutch hits. Bryce Betcher in extra innings in game 1. Scoring an early run, I thought in the third game was huge. Mm-hmm. So, they kind of put it together in a way that hadn't happened in the Pac-12 tournament.
There's been a lot of really good two-sport athletes at Oregon, over the years. Bryce Betcher seems to be, you just mentioned him and kind of the impact that he's had. I remember, I think it was last year with the spring game and having to take him over in a golf cart so that he can then go play in the baseball game later that day. Just hitting bombs. He's a middle linebacker on the football team. Does he show up on your Mount Rushmore two-sport athletes, and how fun is it to watch him do it at multiple events?
Yeah, I'd have to put some thought into that. Jordan Kent obviously was pretty elite. Liz Brenner was pretty elite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure first thing in the morning here, fresh out of bed, there's some I'm spacing that I'm going to be kicking myself about in 10 minutes. But no, I think what he's doing is really impressive. To be to be a quality impact guy the way he is. He's not a star on the football team. He's not a star on the baseball team, even though he's on the all-region team, and he definitely can make some highlight reel catches out in center field, that's for sure. But to be, a really, really solid contributor in two sports the way he is really, really impressive. It just speaks to his commitment, I think, to being a Duck as a Eugene guy, but also to keeping his body healthy and ready and trying to, get as much football work in as he can during baseball season and vice versa. He really wants to play football one more season here, even though he's starting to get some draft buzz too. So it just kind of speaks to his desire to really maximize his experience here.
I know baseball can be a little superstitious, and they fell short of this last year in their super regional. They're back with another chance. I guess it's kind of a two-parter. One, what have you learned about Texas A&M? Because we've already talked about how much we hate that Texas A&M team, even though we don't really know anything about it. And two, has this team, has this group mentioned, because they've had such a stellar season, have they mentioned the idea of finally being the first Duck team to get to, in this era of Duck baseball, to get back to Omaha, or to get to Omaha on the first time of the second version of the baseball program? Have they mentioned it at all?
Well, to your first question, my scouting report for Texas A&M, I think, is in line with yours so far. All I know is they're really, really good. They're obviously really accomplished. I think, what are they? They're like the number 3 national seed. Just kind of talking very, very generally with our staff the other night. They're just kind of good at everything, and obviously it's going to be really a hostile environment. I know nothing beyond that. Obviously, going on the road at a place like that, their facilities are going to be first class. Mm-hmm. Their stadium's gigantic, so it's going to be a tough crowd. In terms of Omaha, I think there were years past, even if, go back 8, 9, 10 years ago, when the program was much more explicit in any given year. Omaha's the goal, Omaha's the goal, Omaha's the goal. And I think now it's kind of more background chatter, at least publicly, explicitly, that, obviously Omaha is the goal. And, I think particularly this year, 70 years since the 54 team that made it to Omaha, there's a sense that wouldn't it be kind of poetic on kind of a round number anniversary like that to get back. And yet it hasn't been, at least in my experience, kind of a daily point of emphasis. It's not like there's signage up that I've seen about, getting to Omaha, which, has been the case in some teams years past, maybe 10 years ago or so. So it's been a little less explicit, but I don't think that means it hasn't been the goal at all. I think that's always, when you're a college baseball player, that's always at least in the back of your mind, if not the forefront of your thinking, that, hey, if we can get things rolling, we can get to Omaha.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed now. I wish they had like one of those like Ted Lasso Believe signs, but it said Omaha, and they like smack it in the locker room every time they're leaving. That'd be kind of a fun story. I got to get in one football question with you, Rob. You've covered this program for a long time. We were going through the football power index, make of that what you will, but the percentage chances they give Oregon to win the Big Ten and to go to the playoff and to win a national championship, they're a very well thought of program going into 2024. This is the most anticipated Oregon football season since.
I think everybody knew going into 14 that Marcus Mariota was a special player and that could be a special team. I think, again, in some of those 20, even those that 2011 season coming off 2010, I think expectations are really high too. I think that, I'm of two minds. On one hand, every football season feels like the most anticipated season ever, just because I think we're all so nuts for it now these days. I think the last 20, 25 years, kind of the culture out here has just changed. So it just feels like kind of a classic college football town fan base where folks are just super excited, kind of regardless of the pieces that are in place. But on the other hand, there's no denying that if you look at the high-end talent and then the depth of talent on this roster, it looks like it stacks up with any in the history of the program. And so, again, I'm of two minds. Every preseason is super exciting, and the anticipation, it feels like it's off the charts. But particularly in terms of, I think, external expectations, because of the work Dan Lanning and his staff have done, recruiting, assembling, retaining talent in a way that some other programs, I think, have found challenging in this new environment. yeah, it's and then you have the move to the Big Ten. The stars are kind of aligning for what could be a really special season for sure.
Has Rob Moesley even one day missed a deadline, the old newspaper deadline where you write a story and have to change half of it and you got 5 minutes and an editor's screaming in your ear, get this in, get this in. You ever had that yet?
The great thing about the internet age is you just publish it, and then if you need to change it, you go back in and change it. the days of like sitting up late at 3 a.m. realizing you had a typo and then having the newspaper stare at you in the face with your typo for 24 hours, that abject misery, these kids these days just won't know it.
They don't know the grind.
You go in and fix the typo, and it's like it never happened.
Yeah, it's so good. Rob Moesley at GoDucks on Twitter. Go give him a follow. The editor at GoDucks.com. Great stuff on the Oregon baseball team as they head to a super regional down at Texas A&M this weekend. We know nothing about them, but we all collectively hate them.
We all know nothing.
Let's go, Ducks. We're excited. Thanks for the time this morning, Rob. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
There you go. Rob Moesley previewing their super regional
That
down.
guy's covering the team, and he's like, I don't know anything about
It's
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, dude. Is Texas A&M the most collectively hated college? Like if your team plays Texas A&M in anything, we all have the same reaction.
There's going to be.
I don't know. Notre Dame, I think.
I don't hate
is
Notre
still
Dame.
up there.
Not like A&M's just.
It's weird.
It's a little weird.
It's to a level that's weird and it's uncomfortable.
I know an A&M fan, and they're like, yeah, it's always a little odd seeing some of that stuff. They don't live down there. They're not swaying back and forth.
What do you want from us, man?
I think that's his answer on what have you learned about A&M. I can just tell you, because baseball Brandon's been around since 2006, Dirt.
Mm-hmm.
I can just tell you, as a true blue blood of the sport with 3 national championships, multiple super regional appearances. I'm glad you guys are cracking your cherry there.
6 trips to Omaha.
6 trips to Omaha. Getting soon to make it 7.
You guys are so cute.
Baseball powerhouse. One of the best things when I was a student and even being post-student, like go back to 2018. I love to replay that pop-up that Arkansas just let drop between 3 players.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have told you 3 things significantly about any of the opponents along the way other than, North Carolina's pretty highly ranked. Like, outside of the obvious, see that little number? That means that's how good they are. You don't need to follow college baseball. You just watch your team and you pull for them and you go, I hate this pitcher of this team, or I hate how much that guy pimped that home run in the 3rd inning. And that's it. You just move on. You don't need to learn the names. You don't need to learn anything. You hate Texas A&M. That's as simple as it gets.
Who was that lefty for North Carolina? That when he went on to have a long career.
Andrew Miller?
Andrew Miller. I'll never forget watching Andrew Miller.
See?
I'll never forget that.
Exactly.
Daily Ticker brought to you by Pelican Brewing. Visit pelicanbrewing.com for more details on locations, events, award-winning beers, independently brewed since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.